Since I released my last video on the G-Class tram, there have been some developments. On the morning of the 30th of July 2026, the very first G-Class tram to run in revenue service left Essendon Tram Depot on Mount Alexander Road, operating a Route 59 service to Flinders Street. Before this, there was a media conference inside the depot with the new Premier and Deputy Premier. There were also people there who worked on the project from Alstom, the state government and Yarra Trams, drivers and many others. After the conference, Tram 7006 left the depot to cheers from the crowd. Then we boarded for the service to the city. The tram operated as normal and picked up and dropped off passengers. The regular passengers, who weren't there to see the tram specifically, were pretty confused to see both a brand new tram and so many people on board at 10 AM on a weekday. The ride went off without a hitch and we went all the way down to Flinders Street. I got off at Collins Street to get some photos and video, which you can see some of here. The tram then headed back to the depot as Route 59D, after enjoying all the attention from Gunzels, passers-by and some very confused tourists who we had to explain to what was going on. I've posted photos from the day on my Flickr account, which you can see over at flickr.com/philipmallis if you're interested. But this video isn't really about this first run. As I flagged before, in this video I want to have a bit of a discussion about what the G-Class means for Melbourne and the future of our tram network. So I'll be talking about that here, interspersed with some footage from the day of the first run, along with some other random shots, diagrams and other things to illustrate my points. We've had new information released since my last video in 2024 about the G-Class and the tram network more broadly. So I'm going to try to make some predictions based on bringing these all together. First off, we know for a fact that the first 100 G-Classes will be coming to 6 tram routes: the 59, 57 and 82, followed by the 12, the 48 and 58. Why these routes? Well, the government hasn't given any specific reason, but I think it has to do with a couple of different things. For a start, this adds capacity on routes that are expected to be busy. It also aligns with current and possible future depot allocations, improves accessibility, and opens up new opportunities for moving other classes of trams onto other routes. Explaining why the first 3 routes have been chosen, the 59, 57 and 82, is pretty straightforward, I think. All 3 are the ones closest and easiest to access from the new Maidstone tram depot, and none currently operate low-floor trams. This has been a particular sore point over the years, given that the 59 and 57 service the Royal Melbourne Hospital and the wider health precinct, and you'd have high-floor trams rocking up to low-floor stops. Not great for accessibility. As for the next 3, the reasons are a little less clear, but I think this choice has more to do with the future expected housing and employment growth. Both the 12 and the 48 service areas like Richmond and Abbotsford that are already dense neighbourhoods, with the 48 especially seeing regular overcrowding on this section of the route. And now with the state government's Train and Tram Zone Activity Centres program, these areas will see further growth, and other sections of the 48 will also have more jobs and people living there, like Kew Junction. This will mean a significant increase in demand, which the current A-classes on both the 12 and 48 would really struggle to handle. The 58, though, doesn't have these same characteristics. It does operate through some activity centres, but not very many. So I think that this route was selected mainly because one of its 2 depots is Essendon, where some of the G-classes will be initially based. The Melbourne Tram Plan from 2023 also calls the Route 58 one of Melbourne's busiest tram routes, but I'm not sure how accurate this is now. If it is, then adding capacity may be another reason. So that's why I think those routes have been picked. But to come back to the increased housing and jobs that we talked about before, there are of course many other tram routes involved in this. So why didn't they get the G-Class instead? Well, I think these areas are either already serviced by railway stations, have other tram routes nearby, or already have high capacity trams. To make this a bit clearer, I've made this table showing all the tram routes that service at least one significant section of the new activity centres, their current fleet, and what I think will happen over the next decade or so as the G-classes come online. If you want to have a more detailed look at this, feel free to pause the video here. This then takes us into cascading. If you haven't heard of this before, basically it's moving trams that the G-Class replaces over to other parts of the network. Now we know that the older trams, the A's and the Z's, will be gradually retired from service. But this still leaves all the other classes to be reused across Melbourne's 24 routes, especially as B classes are replaced on the 59 and then reallocated to other routes. One of these beneficiaries may be the Route 70. There was a little noticed announcement in the last state budget for a new tram substation in Surrey Hills near Wattle Park. The promotional text said that this will, quote, have the energy to power larger trams along Route 70. I think this means that we'll see the Route 70 operate with the larger B-class trams much more frequently or even exclusively, as the smaller A-class trams are retired. I can't imagine that they'd start running E-classes on this route because there are many busier routes that could use the additional capacity more. Plus, the Route 70 doesn't have that many accessible tram stops. The Route 109 is also another beneficiary of this because it may return to having fully accessible trams. I assume that the C1s that currently run on the Route 48 will be reallocated to the 109, as the A classes that run on the 48 are retired because of the new G classes. And maybe, hopefully, the C1s will eventually be retired and replaced by even more G classes. And yes, I do still think they're our worst tram. We might also see more southeastern routes operating exclusively with B classes as the Zs are taken out of service too, especially because these run through activity centres and they'd need the extra capacity, but I'm not entirely sure. So there are currently 69 A-class trams and 86 Zs in service today, or 155 in total, but only 100 G-classes have been ordered so far. This means one of three things will happen. One, there'll be a further order of the G-class to replace the final 55 A's and Z's. Two, there'll be an order of another class of tram to replace the final 55 A's and Z's, or there'll be no replacement and a consequent reduction in frequency or service. The first or second option is probably the most likely scenario here. The Victorian rolling stock strategy from 2022 does acknowledge that Victoria will need, quote, more than 150 new trams to replace high floor trams, which is about 50 more than the current order. But unfortunately, there doesn't seem to have been any discussion beyond simple replacement. The total size of Melbourne's tram fleet hasn't fundamentally changed for decades, despite the huge increases in jobs and population that we've had. For example, in 1998, nearly 20 years ago and before any low-floor vehicles, we had about 540 trams in active service for a population of 3.4 million people. Today we have just under 500 trams for a population of over 5.4 million. Now with the activity centres and other planned growth mainly around tram and train lines, it's more important than ever that fleet size is really considered here. Why? Yes, the newer trams do fit more people, but the frequency of service is at least just as, if not more important than this. You need frequent service to operate a good public transport system. It gives people flexibility and cuts wait times, which also significantly increases its reach because it's much more convenient to change to other services to take you where you need to go. Although broadly our tram network does currently operate good frequencies across most times of the day, there have been reductions that were justified on the basis that newer, bigger trams could fit more people, for example in 2015. This really misses the point about frequency, so hopefully we don't get this happening with the G-Class as well. As Peter Parker over at Melbourne on Transit has written about before, trams 70 years ago actually provided more frequent services than today. While there have been improvements over time, there are still gaps, and people in 1950 were overall getting more trams than we do today. In summary, it's good to have vehicles that can carry more people, but this doesn't replace the need to have frequent services. We need both, just like the Metro Tunnel and the HCMTs did for our suburban railways. And the final point I'd like to discuss is route changes. Now, we have been burned before when the planned route changes following the Metro Tunnel were cancelled, so again, none of this is for certain. I don't think the G-Class specifically will result in many alterations anyway. The only thing that I think really may happen is the long-awaited rerouting of the 12 away from Collins Street and onto La Trobe Street instead. The reason why is that this makes more sense now. Once G-classes start operating on the Route 12, much more of it will be accessible, following the La Trobe Street stop upgrades in 2024. As for the 57, I can't see it being taken out of Elizabeth Street via Victoria Street anytime soon. This is because Swanston Street is already saturated with trams and simply can't fit anymore. Until some of the wider changes happen to route trams away from Swanston Street, like in the original Metro Tunnel plans, I don't think this is a realistic proposition right now. So that's what I think is happening with the introduction of the G-Class and the wider network changes. What do you think? Do you think we'll see any changes, or will it just be business as usual? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again to the Department of Transport and Planning for inviting me along to the first day of passenger operations. As you can see, it was a lot of fun. And if you'd like to support this channel, please subscribe if you haven't already, and take a look at my supporters portal over at members.philipmallis.com. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.